All right, so we're on Genesis chapter 1, verse 2. Here Moses describes to us a world that we'll never know, a world that we've never met. And there's a couple different things that he talks about how the earth was originally. And he says the first thing was that the earth was formless and had deep waters on it. We know earth to be mostly water. When God first created the earth, it was completely covered with water. There was no land, and you have to wait till day 3 to see the land form. And the earth would return to this state one more time when Noah got on the ark and the earth was completely covered with water one more time. Now we know after Noah got off the ark, God promised to never flood the entire world again. Sure, there'd be local floods. There'd be floods here and there throughout the world over the years, but the earth would never be completely formless and just water again. There'd always be land. The second thing that he talks about this world is that it was void. So the earth, when it was first formed, was empty and without inhabitants. No one lived there. There was no life to be found anywhere on the whole face of the planet. As we know, this was not God's ultimate plan, though. God didn't just form the earth to not be inhabited. Isaiah 45:18 says that he formed the earth and made it. He established it. He formed it. He established it. He did not create it empty. He formed it to be inhabited. So we see God's ultimate plan all along was to make this planet inhabited. We'll see this in the next couple of weeks as he continues throughout the days of creation to create and reform this earth that he has made. The earth is also dark. This last description is that the earth was covered with darkness. This seems fairly straightforward to me, though there are many differing views, which is kind of interesting. But let me ask you this. Why is the earth dark? Well, turn to the next verse, Genesis 1, verse 3. This is where God says, "Let there be light." So it's dark because light hadn't been created yet. Makes sense, right? The earth is dark because there is no light. We'll talk more about light next time. But we need to remember that God also created darkness. It's not a part of God, and it's not a characteristic of him, so it's something that he made. Really, the darkness is what absence of light. So if he hadn't made light yet, of course, it's dark. Now, there's different descriptions. The darkness and light are used in different ways, and we'll talk about that when we get to the description of God speaking light into existence. But suffice it to say right now, the earth, as God first made it, on the first day, started off in darkness. So we have this watery, formless, void of life, dark world. I see it as a blank canvas for God to create something that could be inhabited. This is a world that we don't know, a world we will never know. And it shows God's creative power, how he could create a formless, watery, void, and dark world and really begin to sculpt it to make it into something that is inhabited. There's definitely a spiritual idea running behind that, and we'll talk about that more another time. But just know that the earth was like that, and it's an earth that we'll never know. God has promised never to let the earth return back to that state again. So that's Genesis, the beginning of Genesis 1:2.